All right, everyone, it is time for Sunday Super Chat Q&A. I'll also be covering several topics as well. I am not late, by the way. I have to set everything up beforehand. I'm using StreamYard, which means that I have to collate things out for Rumble, for Twitch, and for YouTube. Takes a little time. Also, I like to prepare. I've only got water today. I don't have any lime to put in it, so I'll get scurvy and maybe my bones will get all bendy. But just give me a second here to make sure that we're actually live on Rumble. Always a consideration. Yes, I am. And the very pissed off cat over here is pissed off specifically because I had to move her out of the seat, unfortunately. Poor kitty. I know. You're so put upon. She had to move out of her seat. She thinks that this chair is hers, by the way. She is keeping it warm for me, aka forcing me to sit about a foot forward. That's fine, unless you are doing a live stream. So we'll get right into it. I'll mainly be doing super chats as usual, but there are a couple of things that I wanted to talk about first and foremost. Let me get my notes out here. Yes, I am using notes for the live stream sporadically, just so that I know what I'm covering. First and foremost, of course, it's Mother's Day. So to all of you mothers out there, congratulations, congratulatory clank. I'd give you one here. I do have a spoon in the background now, but that's collectible. By the way, I got this at the local antique shop, and it's Kelly Tarleton's Underwater World, Auckland, New Zealand. And I got it because it's Tarleton. My name is Tarl. So I'm like, I guess it's mine, basically. €3. Not exactly the most expensive thing in the world. I just thought it was funny. I wanted a spoon in the background. I'd hang it up on the wall, but I don't have anything to hang it on, so a little bit of a problem, of course. Anyway, we're going to talk about the GOP and abortion, and also the Dendera lights, something that I was looking into for a couple of days, and it dawned on me. I think I know what the Dendera lights actually are, the famous hieroglyphics. Purportedly, according to the ancient astronaut theory, they show that the ancient Egyptians had electricity or some sort of electronic light source. I think that I've figured it out. I think that I've cracked the code and know what actually is being represented there. So we'll get into that as well. That's something, it's just sort of one of those things I happen to be interested in. I like the paranormal. I like unexplained stuff, like D.B. Cooper or whatever. I'll get into that a little bit more. I think that we have a super chat by 87 Sparky. Happy Mother's Day to your wife. Well, thank you very much. I'll make sure that Liz knows she's got a happy Mother's Day message. And let me check Rumble really quickly as well. Yeah, Tarleton, I'd rather fight than switch. Clank and Ree. Yeah, by the way, I agree with Cam2425IA on Rumble. Mississippi governor would be making a mistake if he actually tries to outlaw contraception. Yes, emboldened by what's happened, and that's a good segue into the GOP potentially self-sabotaging. Emboldened by the probable ruling on Roe v. Wade, which is to strike it down. We don't know if it'll be a 5-4, 6-3, or, a 5-3, and then one person having a totally different opinion, which is Justice Roberts, by the way. Bush appointee, should give you an indicator about his politics. We're not exactly 100% sure if the ruling will actually go in that direction. People do need to realize that was a draft decision. What I see right now are a bunch of very emboldened conservatives that are doing what the GOP should probably not do. You're winning on the economy, especially since we're headed for a recession long before midterms. You're winning on the border. You're winning on crime. You're winning on diplomacy. People are beginning to question why we're sending tens of billions a month in aid to Ukraine when there are Americans who can't put bread on the table. You're winning on basically every social and diplomatic issue that you could. And yet there are Republicans that want to say, hey, if SCOTUS overrules Roe v. Wade, we've got carte blanche. let's just outlaw abortion on the federal level. And I'm thinking to myself, this is exactly what I warned of. This is snatching defeat from the jaws of victory for the GOP. This is how the GOP potentially falters before midterms. I'm not saying that even if they do this, they don't win back the House, because that's lopsidedly in their favor. And some of those districts are red districts. So in those districts, it's not going to make a big difference. Most people in the United States support the legality of abortion. They don't support it being unlimited. They don't necessarily support like in the state of Vermont, like basically it's, you know, I can't remember exactly if there's any cutoff at all. There's basically no limitation. Most people in the country support having more limitations than currently federally exist on abortion, but they don't want it outlawed. So when I see Mitch McConnell the other day saying, well, yeah, if Roe v. Wade gets shot down, definitely it's on the table as a debate whether we could federally outlaw abortion. You shouldn't be saying that. At the very least, don't say that part out loud, because it sounds crazy to most people. The majority, 80% of the public, wants abortion to be legal. The fact that the majority of that 80% wants it to be further limited beyond, you know, the general 20 weeks or whatever it is in most states does not mean that they want it to be federally illegal. Certainly, contraception is an entirely different issue. The average person believes in the ability of a person to seek to buy a condom, to get birth control pills, a shot, the copper implant, or whatever it happens to be. I'm looking at a situation where the Republicans, who basically cannot lose on any economic issue, on any foreign policy issue, certainly on crime, the border, etc., the list goes on. It's a very long list, are attempting to fixate, and I think this was the meaning of the SCOTUS leak. I think it was to get them to fixate on this, to fixate on a social issue in which if they overstretch, which the GOP is generally very reluctant to do, they lose. They don't necessarily lose in the midterms in the sense of not regaining the House, but instead of it being a tidal wave, we're talking about the possibility of 50 or 60 House seats. We're talking about impeachment and removal territory for the Biden administration if the Senate goes awry as well. Instead of that, they have more mild gains, which means the government gets locked down. The Republicans get retroactively blamed for everything that's wrong by the Biden administration. And I think that that's a crazy idea. I happen, by the way, to be pro-choice. I support a woman's right to choose. What restrictions exist upon that are negotiable. Those have been decided largely at state level anyway. The fact that abortion has been legalized federally by Roe v. Wade has not stopped states from setting various limits. That's a state argument. I think the GOP would be insane to take this up as an issue. But then again, remember, the GOP has a lot of insane people in it. Neocons, further, whitest nationalists and so forth. We don't know exactly what's going to happen. So now this throws the midterms into questionable territory, potentially. Josh Eternal, I love me some Brian Forrester and Graham Hancock. I have no clue who those are. Sebastian Monroe, last update, we finally interred my grandfather to be laid at rest. He was a union miner for 30 years before farming for 50 years. Old 50s Democrat until 2016. He hated communists enough to vote for Trump. Well, he made a very good decision in doing that. And if he did farming for 50 years, geez, so he grew a lot of plants. Respect. I wonder what crops he grew. Dweez, Droid, Breeze Boys, Klankleburgers. E-T-M. Hi, Styx. I have a case U.S. military-style MREs with a manufacture date of 12/2015. They've been stored at room temperature. You think they're safe to eat? Send one to me, and I will determine this for you. Semi-jokingly, of course. If I was in the United States, I'd say, yeah, mail one over, and don't worry. I'll make sure that it's edible. My assumption is probably, if it was stored properly, yeah, they're probably edible. If you got any of the vegetarian lasagna in there, set one aside for me, please, because that's my favorite dish of all. My second nephew, I know we're going to go through some shit, but I feel good about the future. Yeah, that's how I feel. It's always darkest before dawn. There are so many black pillars out there like, Styx, you're being unreasonable. The United States is on its last leg. China is rising. We're all going to die. And I'm like, well, have you ever studied the Jimmy Carter era? Actually, we've been through similar before. The only difference is that Jimmy Carter, I mean, he wasn't mentally retarded like Joe Biden is. He wasn't, 80 years old. That's basically the only difference. You had stagflation. You had various diplomatic failures. In Carter's case, arguably, at least at the outset, worse. You certainly had him fighting with the legislature, including members of his own party as well. This is one thing that Carter was known for. He wasn't good at working well with others. Biden's not either. He doesn't want to work with the legislature. He's being openly encouraged by people to rule in an executive fashion. That's a mistake. It's bad for his administration for, what little that's worth. Fraser McBurney. Would a woman who had an abortion be considered as a mother or as a witch? B, I think not. I don't know exactly what you mean. It depends on if she's using abortifacients and whether it's the 19th century or not. Again, when I analyze these things, I am pro-choice. I believe in a woman's right to choose. But when I analyze them, mainly I analyze them from the strategic, very cut and dry, very academic standpoint of optics. So if the Republican Party decides, Roe v. Wade is thrown out, and they decide to make it a federal issue, they decide, we're just going to outlaw abortion on the federal level when we're elected. Vote for us in the midterms. It will not go well for them, especially they'd still have Biden to go around. They don't have enough votes, even if they get 60 seats, to supersede a veto. They won't have enough votes in the Senate. So it'd be crazy. But then again, the GOP can be crazy. We don't know what they'll do. Robot Trucker. Styx, you should try No Man's Sky. It's a lot better now and is frequently updated. It's basically Minecraft in space, plus you can build settlements. That does sound tempting. I don't have as much time for gaming at the moment, though, having an infant and all. I'd rather cook a good meal. I'm going to be cooking asparagus soup tonight, by the way. I hope that it's as good as it looks. Wolf Better. Try mozzarella di bufala cheese. Thank me later. For cheeses, Munster cheese is #1, but you don't eat it on its own. And it's basically, that's the grilled cheese. Parmesan is wonderful. Dana Blue, which is the Danish blue cheese, is probably the best single cheese as far as use for like an hors d'oeuvre, like you put it on a cracker or something. Cheddar's good. If it's a sharp cheddar, I do not like mild cheddar cheeses. It has to be sharp or preferably extra sharp. I remember Cabot Cheese made these little cheese rectangles back in the day. I remember at Gillingham's, actually, in Woodstock, Vermont, they used to sell that. It is in a cooler. And sometimes, normal kids, they'd be like, hey, Mom, can I have $1? I want to go get a Hershey bar. I'm like, hey, Mom, can I have 50 cents? I want a piece of cheese. I thought it was delicious. And it is delicious, trust me. Josh Eternal, Brian Forster makes videos about ancient high tech. Yes, we will get into the Nadera lights as well in this live stream, because I think that I've got a revelation about what that actually represents. Not sure, but hey, any hypothesis, you throw it out there and you're the first one to throw it out there. People will debate it. Opinionated Junkie, don't know who's worst, black or blue pillars. I would say black pillars are worse. And some people are black-pilled. They don't really mean to spread propaganda. They're not doing it on purpose. They genuinely believe it. So we'll differentiate that first and foremost. A blue pillar being a person who's they're just not with it. They don't understand what's going on. They will always believe the blue-pilled ideology that they're expressing. Some black pillars, though, are shills. That makes them worse. The Side Showman 212. It's intentional suicide. McConnell is a member of the Mono Party. I agree with you, by the way, on this. He likely sees this as an opportunity to cause the Republicans to fall on their sword. He will self-sabotage to preserve the Mono Party. That's my opinion, anyway. It's possible, but you got to realize his power is waning within the Republican Party. There are open calls now for him to be replaced. I think he genuinely believes it. But the other thing is, you got to understand, McConnell says something like that. He says, well, we'll be debating potentially federal ban on abortion because now Roe v. Wade is falling. He doesn't mean that he wants to debate it. He doesn't mean that he would stand on the side of banning abortion. It just means that he's saying, yes, that's a possible debate to be had. Cruz falls into the same category. But even admitting to that, going to the media, talking to them, you know that they're going to attack you. You know that they're trying to get sound bites. They're trying to get little quips and clips to put online. Even going to them in the wake of the draft decision on Roe v. Wade is just a terrible idea. It is strategically unsound because you're going to have to admit to it. I mean, what would happen? Mitch McConnell says otherwise. So he says, no, that's not on the table. No, we're not going to be debating that. We're not going to be debating about any possibility of a federal ban on abortion. Okay, you've just undercut the right-wing candidates, their evangelical core, and potentially some of your own constituents. Well, you can't do that. So you admit to the truth. You say, well, yes, indeed, we might be banning abortion on the federal level. If push comes to shove, we can have that debate. It doesn't look good now, does it? Because that 10-second sound clip will get taken up by MSNBC and CNN and Vox and Salon and all of the others and ran into the ground ad nauseum. He was ill-advised to even do that particular interview. Cruz was ill-advised to weigh in. They should have just shut up. My advice to the GOP, regardless of your intentions regarding abortion, shut up. Don't talk about it. Let the leftoids continue to say, hey, abortion should be free and easily accessed up to the point of conception. Hey, if Ralph Northam has his way, maybe even thereafter. Let them continue to get enough rope to hang themselves. Don't even bother weighing in. Despite your inclinations and your egotism and your attention-seeking, attention-whoring, don't weigh in. Let them make their own case, which obviously doesn't sit well with people. Hey, yeah, we're aborting 9-month-old fetuses. Well, it's not a fetus at that point. Let them make their bed and lay in it, and let them do it. Give them that latitude. Don't interrupt your enemy when they're making a mistake. Sebastian Monroe, he grew it all. Corn, soybeans, wheat. He raised hogs when I was young. His specialty, though, is black Angus beef, which is delicious, by the way. Yeah, soybeans, people will drag you in chat for that, maybe. I've always wanted to grow wheat, like a red winter wheat or something like that. You plow it in the fall, I believe, and then you harvest it this coming year. I've wanted to try that. There's enough land in Rutland for it, that's for sure. Nice big field. Too bad there's a power line over half of it. Opinionated junkie, authoritarian right for porn, censorship, and drug war. Yes, exactly. There are definitely problems with the right wing. I can't reconcile myself to believe in or support. Abortion is another one of these. Gay marriage. You're giving easy fodder to people like Eric Swalwell. When you start the moralistic crusade because you're emboldened by Roe v. Wade maybe falling, and you say, well, we can do whatever we want, you're doing what the liberals do. They're given an inch and they take a foot. Now, to their credit, the populistic side of the Republicans, generally speaking, when they do this, it's a good thing. Hey, for instance, SCOTUS is probably going to find on the side of gun rights in the case revolving around New York and New Jersey and concealed carry permitting. If the GOP were to say, hey, well, you can get a concealed carry anywhere. It's either shall issue or it's constitutional carry. We're going to get rid of the mag limits. I would support that. We're going to get rid of the 21 age level to buy certain kinds of guns, which is absolutely unconstitutional. I'd support that. In general, it's a good idea when the GOP bellies up to the bar and does this, but not when it's going to be a Pyrrhic victory where you say, okay, abortion has been hazarded at the federal level. We're just going to ban it outright, alienating 80% of the voting public. You may think that's right. You may think that's ethical. You may think if it saves one life, it's perfectly fine. You'll lose. That's how you lose. This is the purpose of strategy within politics. As far as porn and the drug war, drugs should be legal. Porn should be legal for adults to consume. America floats. Asiago spread on toasted Italian. It's worth a try. Sounds good. Lapco92. I got the feeling current troubles are the long shadow of Obama. Biden's not in charge. Many policies now reek of malice. Remember whenever Obama failed or was blocked, it was our fault, never his. Well, Biden takes up the same line. He learned from his mentor. He doesn't like to admit that Obama, who was 30 years younger than him, really was his mentor. And he's racist. He probably felt looked down upon because the president at the time was black and he happened to be white. Come on, man. Gotta take you behind the tool shed. Otas85, you're the man, Styx. Organize a live event. Give me a reason to fly to Amsterdam. Well, I'm not in Amsterdam, so we can't do that. Transylvania 90, since the GOP tends to underreach even when they have a mandate, I doubt they'd try something as stupid as outlawing abortion federally, but the legacy media will try to spin it like they intend to. Yes, yes, yes. That's exactly the problem. You have identified it. It's not that they're actually proposing this. No sane candidate for Congress certainly will do so. It's that they give sound bites to the legacy media that makes it vaguely sound like they're going to, and then that gets played ad nauseum as propaganda. Right before the midterms, of course. It's coincidental. Stephen Dooler. Styx, have you heard of Magister Clavis? He's big on demonology, and the two of you are piquing mine. I think that I actually have heard of him. I haven't looked into his material. I guess I'll have to do so. Matt Siringo 24, given a woman can impregnate herself, do you believe the father should ideally have any say in the choice to abort? Given he's legally forced into child support, I think it's an important discussion. Well, you could have a legal referendum on that. The father says, no, don't abort. She has it anyway, and so he's absolved of all child support. It's as simple as that, if you really wanted to go down that route. Preferably, the idea is that generally, if they're a mature couple, they've decided to have or not have a child jointly. And so the hope, legalese steps in when people are immature. This is why people need to pull themselves up by the bootstraps, learn a new skill, make some more money, learn to self-govern, do everything individually that you can, get together with your local community and sort of govern things yourself, because otherwise government will step in. If you can raise your children as a community yourselves, you don't need the public school system that's trying to teach 5-year-olds about anal sex or something like that. It's not necessary. You don't have to worry about what the school district does. Fuck the school district. Opinionated junkie. With Trump or DeSantis, I won't want a Taft-Teddy situation where Wilson won. Don't want the same thing to happen. I don't think you'll see that. I don't think that there's actually bad blood between them. I think that that's been drummed up by people who dislike both Trump and DeSantis. So they're trying to get people who tilt towards one direction or the other. Like I support Trump more than DeSantis. DeSantis, red flag laws, untested in the presidential capacity, I'd prefer Trump. But if DeSantis runs, Trump's not in there. Or if he wins the primaries, I'd be perfectly happy to vote for him. David Coombs, do you think our money could become entirely worthless like Venezuela? No, I don't think that it'll go down that route. I think we're headed towards a stagflationary cycle. There will be shortages. There will be either a prolonged recession or possibly a minor depression, like a 46, 47 deal. And I think people need to prepare. But no, I don't see hyperinflation to the point of Venezuelaization or something like that, which is the one bit of good news economically right now. Desiccated corpse, happy Mother's Day. I am now a pregnant male, sips on soy. Yeah, men can get pregnant. This is taught in biology textbooks now. Robert Medina, congratulations on having the kid. Peace and love. Ringo Starr now. Denying S. I'm pro-life, but trying for a federal ban on abortion right now would be hypocritical at this point. Kick it back to the states and build a culture that values human life. Yeah, that's the other problem, is the Republican Party proclaimed for decades, hey, it's a states' rights issue. And then, of course, the second that this decision that's not even finalized comes through and they think Roe v. Wade will be gone, what do they default to? Hey, federal ban on abortion. I'm not saying that it'll happen. I'm not saying I would support it necessarily, says Ted Cruz or Mitch McConnell, but it'll be a debate that we have to have. Marsha Blackburn and all of these others. It's not a debate that we need to have. You fought for it being a states' rights issue now for a half of a fucking century. Let it be a states' rights issue. Legal in blue states, more restricted in red states. Maybe you pass federal legislation that sort of finalizes the limitations. Maybe you say, okay, we're going to allow abortion up to 12 weeks and further in the case of expedience. A woman's life is in danger, rape, whatever, and we'll leave it at that. Okay, it's a compromise. You have a bicameral legislature comprised of multiple parties for a reason. Why don't you use it instead of grandstanding? The GOP is at great risk in this particular debate of looking a lot like the Democrats. And the Democrats overstretching, getting a very small mandate and thinking that they have the moon on a stick is why they're in the present situation. If the GOP goes down that route and says, look, Roe v. Wade has ended, now we can do whatever we want, even though we don't have the fucking House, we don't have the fucking Senate, we don't have the fucking White House, we don't have anything outside of state supremacy, we can do it at the state level in most states, they're nuts. You got to be, you people are insane. Mitch McConnell's nuts. If he actually brings it forth for a vote or something, knowing that it'll fail anyway. The man with no name called Wyatt Nelson. You think Bernie will try again 2024? He has said that he's open to running again if Biden doesn't. I don't think Biden will be running. So yeah, he may very well decide to buy a third home, which is what he would be aiming for. By the way, to people bringing up Roe v. Wade in the Ruth Bader Ginsburg opinion sense, yes, I'm well aware of the fact that she claimed that it was constitutionally untenable. I know that. I've told several people in my personal life who are pro-choice, like I am, about this actually already. But that same thing goes that I said before. The fact that it would be constitutionally untenable and probably falls doesn't mean that you go a step beyond that and vainly try to pass a federal law restricting abortion. Let the states handle it. BloodXed on Twitch saying, have you seen the young turds mauling at Biden? Haha, what losers. Yes, I have. Oh boy. I remember in the midterms when we were clanking their live stream. By the way, link in the description. This is to a Twitter post that I posted, sorry. This has nothing to do with politics, but it's something that I thought was very interesting. I was looking at a bunch of paranormal pages on Wikipedia and elsewhere earlier, actually, compilation, a bunch of links. And I was looking at the Dendera lights, which is in the ancient astronaut theory, the idea is that the Dendera lights represent a primitive electrical lighting source that the ancient Egyptians supposedly had. And I was looking at some comparative motifs that have the same general characters in it, especially this particular snake demigod that they have. And again, link in the description. Look at it for yourself. We'll look at the top image. What do you see? And I think that I've figured the Dendera lights out. They're not lights at all. Well, kind of, sort of, technically, but not in the electrical sense. In the first image, if you look at that snake that's sort of undulating up towards the hieroglyphs, all I can see there, the only thing that I can interpret is that that's a brazier. It's an incense burner, or it's a fire within some sort of presumably metallic container. And then I decided to look at the Dendera lights, and I said the undulation is there, I think, for a reason. I think that it's based on the concept of heat. That is, the ancient Egyptians out in the desert, they were looking out into the hinterlands, looking at the sand, largely flat and so forth, very hot, very sunny, and they were seeing an undulation within the air. And I think that they developed the concept of a symbol where the snake represents the undulation of heat through the air. If we look at that, the first image that we see here is quite clear within the context. The hieroglyphics generally in ancient Egypt, they tell a story, and so they're more literal. The figures often are to illustrate the story. In this particular story, though, I have a snake rising up out of what appears to be a flame in the middle of a bowl or some other similar object. I think it's a bronze brazier with incense or some combustible material burning. And the snake is a symbol, therefore, a metaphor of the heat or the smoke or the fire rising up out of that combustible element. If we take the same idea from the same time period in the same complex, and we look at the Dendera lights, what then do you see? I see the emission of heat or light or flame from an object that appears to be sun-powered. And what I think is happening here is one of two things. Number one, they develop some sort of sensor, an incense sensor. You put it in the little thing like the Catholics have, and they swing it back and forth, and it fumigates the room. They use fumatory, by the way, fumaria, and the scent goes everywhere, the smoke. That's one possibility, that this would be some sort of maybe pump-powered, directed sort of incense burner. That'd be interesting. They would have used it in their temples. The other possibility is that that little vessel that you see with the figure holding the sun on top of it is a heat-focusing vessel. That is, all it would be is a metal container. It gets hot in the sun. Maybe it's directed by an oculus or something like this. And through a tube, the vapors or the flammable substance, whatever it happens to be, is ignited and or caused to smoke. And it is emitted through a tube. That's it. It's not a light. It's heat. So yeah, I thought that that was interesting. I was just looking at these different figures and looking at the particular motifs, the usage of the snake particularly, and the lotus. I think the lotus represents fire. I don't think it represents a flower. I think this is just a stylized fire, and they've chosen the flower and the stem and so forth as a usage for it. It's nothing more than decoration. It's just stylized. Because in the first image, it's not a flower, it's a bowl of some sort. The other flower is in the middle of the bowl. It doesn't make any sense if you consider this to be some sort of mechanism for lighting. The first one doesn't refer to that. And if it refers to actual flowers, well, in neither sense would it technically make sense. Why then is it sitting in the middle of the bowl smoking or emitting flame or something of that nature? It could be one way. It could actually be related to religious ritualism. That is Nymphaea caerulea, the blue lotus, which is sacred within Egyptian scriptures. It is a drug. It's actually an intoxicant, mostly a hypnotic and sedative. I've actually tried it, and I had weird visions when I smoked it, to tell the truth. I tried taking it in wine, which was the traditional recipe. It was so bitter I couldn't stand it. I probably should have used a Zinfandel, I suppose. It's possible that this is the burning of that particular plant. Again, though, in the second image, it wouldn't represent a light. It represents fire. It represents heat, or it represents a vapor. That is a fume or something coming out. Anyway, it has absolutely nothing to do with anything else I'm talking about. I just thought that it was fascinating. People can tell me if they agree. Adam Bomb 31458. Pelosi's words in Ukraine reminds me of her words of confidence before election steal 2020. What is the NWO plan? These people give me the creeps. Yeah, there's some globalistic jargon going on, but that's par for the course. It's like Herbert Walker talking about the New World Order and shit like that. Avera Gamer, how long can rice and beans in a bag last? I plan on getting that and a few other non-perishable foods for about a 6-month supply. They'll last a lot more than 6 months. I think under optimal circumstances, properly packed, I think they'll last years and years. Under perfectly dry circumstances, God, they might outlast you. So I wouldn't worry about the rice and beans. Just keep them away from the rodents. Wasabi, hey, if you like the occult, check out Working Dragon Mystic. He is very knowledgeable, and I find his approach very good. That sounds good. John Lies, if Republicans supported abortion, the Dems would probably want to tax sexual activity and hookers, except the ones in D.C., that is. Yeah, I noticed that people are still occasionally jailed for smoking weed, but in D.C. it's legal. I think the politicians prefer coke, though, honestly. They get a lot more money than the average person, so they got something higher octane. That and apparently a lot of booze. I remember when Boehner was complaining that when they came to the floor for a vote on budget continuance or something, that the smell of booze was in the air and everyone was drunk. I'm thinking to myself, oh yeah, like you didn't have a couple of shots of vodka or something beforehand. Desiccated corpse. Do you think women's rights are being set back as a result of women no longer being definable and transgender people getting into women's sports? No, I think those are coincidental. I think that it has more to do with this. The left massively overstretched. They went from, hey, abortion needs to be legal. Women, they get raped or whatever. Nobody had a problem with that argument. All of a sudden we hear from Virginia and Northam, abortion will be legal up until the point of conception. Maybe it'll be post-birth abortions. Who knows? And this was used by Republicans successfully to frame this issue. Roe v. Wade being tenable in the constitutional sense, notwithstanding. That's a semi-separate issue. There was a reason why there were claimants in a case regarding abortion. The GOP now risks going in the opposite direction, taking what could be a very easy victory. Hey, Roe v. Wade's been shot down. Now it's a states' rights issue. We're going to take a federal hands-off approach and let the states decide. Blue state decides abortion's legal for 7-8 months. Okay, state rights issue. Another state has decided to cap it at 6 weeks. Okay, states' rights issue. That would be a way of going about it where the constituents in each state could vote potentially or through their legislatures determine when abortion is or is not legal. That maximizes the capabilities of those people to feel happy about the outcome. Federalizing it, refederalizing it technically, is a terrible, terrible mistake. Transylvania 90. McConnell's comment is so far off the wall stupid that it can only be malevolent. He wants this bipartisan neocon neolib status quo to go on forever and not a populist red wave that would threaten him. He will be let down. The populist red wave is coming regardless. A lot of those populists happen to have Justice Demmed sitting Republicans and are in red districts that aren't going to go blue. And they've won the primaries. They're basically shoo-ins. That part is now set. It will happen. There will be a populist red wave. Whether or not McConnell's dwindling part of the party can hold on remains to be seen. It depends on what he does. Omar Cavazos. Rumor is gas will hit $10 a gallon. Should I grab my ankles now? I don't know that it'll hit $10 a gallon. That would be pretty ahistorically steep. But yeah, prices will be rising. If anything is going to go up to by that margin, it'll be things like wheat. And then it'll affect the meat prices. Next year, you can expect to be paying a goddamn bundle if you want a steak. Your next 4th of July, the White House won't be bragging about a 7 cent reduction in the cost of your fucking hot dogs. I can guarantee that. Denying S. To be fair, Biden didn't run the first time. Media did it for him. Yeah. They wiped his ass for him. Zero Fan Mab on Twitch pointing out Egypt does have a few mountains over by the Red Sea. Yes, indeed. And a lot of badlands. It's not technically desert. It's just a bunch of empty rocks. Looks like the surface of Mars or the moon or something. Matthew Edward Meditz. Carbon 6, electron 6, neutron 6 protons. We're carbon life. Go. Much love, boss. Happy Mother's Day to your wife. The lotus is life. Chimes out of waste. Yeah, and these, though, I'm saying, I think that the lotus represents fire or some sort of combustible, presumably vegetable in nature. It might have been incense. It might have been naphtha, actually, if we look beyond the stylization. But when I look at these particular images, the first one is clear. It's a brazier. The snake represents something. I don't think that it's meant to literally represent a demigod. I think it is the demigod representing a real world sort of thing. So we have to reverse engineer a little bit. And then when we apply it to the Nadera light hieroglyphs, what are we seeing? A vapor, a mist, a smoke, heat, something coming out of some sort of vessel, probably bronze piping or something. The sun appears to have been used to heat it. Well, you could use the sun to heat a vessel with charcoal and incense inside of it and combust it or cause it to smoke. And then you can use it as a sensor. It's as simple as that. Or it could be effectively a primitive pyrotechnic display. Maybe there was something else that was more combustible in there. Again, the heat and the fire and sparks and so forth come through the front nozzle. They probably elongated it for show in this hieroglyph. And it could use solar power. You might not even need like a magnifying glass to heat the vessel up enough. It depends on what combustible it is. If it's linseed oil or something, you just need the hot sun in a bronze vessel sitting in the sand. Reach 140 degrees or something. Tom Sinden, I am an anti-natalist, but I am still pleased for you and Liz. I'm sure you will be great parents. Thank you. AD, as an RGV native, isn't it crazy? The Rio Grande Valley is basically an ethno-state, but it's not a problem. The subtle racism of low standards. Yeah, the Rio Grande Valley is like 98 or something % Hispanic. So Zach the Celtics guy, what are they going to do? Ask them the question. Anna Kasparian throwing the most insane fit ever about abortion. She has officially lost it. The irony is that while she lost it in that particular diatribe, she's not entirely wrong. Actually more cerebral than normal. She's effectively saying, look, what are the Democrats going to do? They've thrown us under the bus. They don't care about you. If you look at the whole thing, she's repeatedly lambasting the Democrats, and she's right. The Warren types, they don't give a shit about abortion as an issue, beyond being able to market it in order to get votes. And money, of course. Matthew Edward Minutes, water breaks, life occurs. The lotus is the water break. I don't know at all. I dig your talk. Could you do an informal video where you're caffeinated? I'm caffeinated every morning, my dude. A little bit less right now. No, I do not believe this has to do with the water breaking. I believe it has to do with fire, actually. That is that what's being depicted here, in my mind, is a form of primitive machine. The first illustration illustrates it perfectly. It is a brazier. It is concave. It's a bowl. It's got an herb in it, and the herb appears to be smoking. It's been lit on fire. If we apply that to the second image, if we assume a similar kind of authorship and meaning behind these images, it's not a light. It's not a Dendera light. It's a Dendera flamethrower, potentially, or a Dendera incense dispenser or something of that nature. I don't know. I find it fascinating. TPL, caffeinated equals cocaine. Styx has a notorious cocaine problem. No, I have an energy drink problem, actually. You can see back there. Silver paradox. Abortion is denying God's existence. That depends on which God and which interpretation. Darth Jason, Styx, you should get Salty Cracker on your midterm stream. That'd be fun. By the way, we have a super chat over on Rumble. Cam2425IA, Diaper Fund. Thank you very much. I'll get a pack of, undergarments in your name. Poop removal squad. Lots of that. Desiccated corpse, pro-choice, there's limits. If the condom breaks or the pill doesn't work, if the woman gets raped, then it makes sense. My issue is with getting an abortion a few months before they're born. You'd have to be deranged or backwards. Yes, you do have to understand that something like 90% of abortions happen in the first trimester, and a significant majority happen and aren't even surgical. They use abortifacients. These days, it's a pill. In the old days, especially when people were like if they were prostitutes or something, back in the 19th century, they'd drink pennyroyal tea, usually spiked with cohosh, and they just sporadically drink it, and it would stimulate their period and stuff. There is no way to stop, by the way, abortions. The other main argument is that it's not pragmatic to try to stop them. They will continue. If it's pre-surgical, there are herbal supplements and other things that can be used. If it's post-surgical, it's 10 weeks or something. Women used to puncture their cervix with, the stereotype is a coat hanger, but other things can be used. It would stimulate bleeding. It would break the water. It would spontaneously begin a miscarriage. Obviously, it's many, many moons before the baby's viable. And then they'd go in for an emergency removal, an abortion. And that will continue to be legal. There's basically no methodology by which a state would be able to competently prove that a woman caused that to happen versus it happened because of an act of God or an act of nature. So they will continue. I mean, it's not going to save the babies or anything like that. If you want to introduce ethical limits, that's one argument. But trying to do that on the federal level is not going to work. Any more than Roe v. Wade, it'd fall faster than Roe v. Wade fell. I guarantee that. HB Buddha on Twitch. Didn't I hear they found cannabis in Egyptian tombs? It's entirely possible. They had Nymphaea cerulea. They had Syrian rue. They certainly had a lot of booze. They had all sorts of mind-warping substances. They had great parties, I'm sure. Matthew Edward Meditz. Could it be the burning bush of Moses? No, I believe that would be Dictamnus alba, which actually I've got growing in the garden in Rutland. False dittany. The leaves contain a large amount of volatile oils, and actually on a nice, hot, windless day, it is possible for the sunlight alone to ignite them and cause these little bushes to burn. Beautiful flowers, by the way, and they smell nice. Smell a little bit like camphor, actually. Nick Santini, hey Styx, anarchy has an outdated definition and hasn't done anything significant. Do you know another term for its definition? Mob rule. That's basically, anarchy becomes mob rule, yeah. Zach the Celtics guy. I have an energy drink addiction too. Rain, Bang, and Red Bull. All my favorites. I am drinking a Rain as I watch this. Red Bull's good, but I prefer, I'm on a low sugar diet by choice just because I've stopped liking the taste of sugar. I don't eat snacks. I don't eat baked goods that are sugary. I don't eat candy. I had a few M&Ms the other day and I was like, it's all right. I like the sugar-free ones. The one in the middle that's a regular, the black one, Jesus Christ, is just there for atmospheric effect. I'll probably never drink it. I bleed red, white, and blue. Thank you for speaking the truth, Styx. We need to support independent artists to fight combat the propaganda. Author and filmmaker Bo Yachty is one of the good guys. www.boyachty.com. There's a little bit of a shout out there. Helicopter rides for communists. Abortion is a violation of the NAP. A fetus is a human being in the early stages of development. Birth does not magically convey life to the baby. Murder laws don't 100% stop murder either. What I'm saying is that murder laws stop a large plurality of potential murders. Abortion laws would not stop a plurality of abortions because there's no methodology by which you would be able to investigate it. I mean, a toxicology report, as far as I know, is not going to turn up, hey, the woman decided to drink pennyroyal. Well, it's not illegal or anything. Maybe you just drink it every day. Maybe it just causes a miscarriage once in a while because you're sexually active. That's number one. Number two, I do not believe that it violates the NAP. I think that the government butting in on medical decisions violates the NAP. That being said, if you're trying to create reasonable restrictions around it, with workarounds, of course, for a woman's life being in danger, etc., that is fine. But it's not going to be at the federal level because that's nuts. It's completely insane. The federal government should butt out of everything. There shouldn't be any federal laws, hardly. The state should handle 99.9% of everything because they're better able to address the desires of their constituents. The idea of the national fabric needing to be held together by a strong central government's insane anyway. No, it's better held together if people are reasonably at peace and comfy. The best way to do that, let a more local government generally decide things unless there's a compelling reason to not allow them to do so. Dubious Prime, long-time clanker, first-time clanking. I hope your day and everyone's day is well. Very good, except for the cats have been absolutely insane. You hear one of them, I believe, singing on the stairs at the moment. They wouldn't leave me alone. And then Farah was doing the thing. You know, you've had this experience if you have cats. They sit by the door and meow. They want to be let out. You let them out. 5 minutes later, they're sitting at the door. They meow to be let in. And sometimes they meow at the door and they don't want to go out or in. They just want to meow at you. They just want to be annoying. I think they find it funny, actually. Matthew Edward Meditz. My understanding is that it all goes back to Egypt with the Blue Lotus, all religions. Do you believe in syncretism? Your good internet, sir. It doesn't go back to Egypt, actually. I think it goes back further to Sumeria and pre-Sumerian times, like Catalhoyuk and shit. Basically, that's the first origin of what you could consider semi-organized faith or spiritual activity. But we have evidence going back to the Neanderthals 20,000 years ago that they participated in ritual burial. I don't know where they got the idea from. Maybe Ancient Aliens is right after all. Murder Dog on Twitch saying NEP isn't even real. All that's real is what's on the law books. From a constitutional standpoint through the SCOTUS, yes, absolutely. I believe in the NAP, absolutely. But technically speaking, it is just reflected in legalism, if it's properly interpreted. Alexander Emelianov. Hey, Styx, do you still play RuneScape? Happy Mother's Day to your wife, by the way. Well, thank you for that. No, I do not. I gave up RuneScape long ago. Logged in a couple times in the last 3 or 4 years, and game looks so different. I'm like, yeah, it's not going to happen. It got to the point where I was paying for treasure hunter keys, and I'm like, I need to stop because I've got better things to do with my life. Lazarian442, have you ever played Spoons? No, I have not. Although Spoon Man is a good music video, I will say. Cordo Maltese, if God has a plan for everyone, couldn't abortion just be in the child's plan? Yeah, theoretically. And if God can do whatever he wants, theoretically, he could be lying to everyone, send everyone to hell regardless of what they do, and just sit there laughing at them for the rest of eternity. But this is not taken into consideration. By the way, Odin, yes, Bitcoin is collapsing at the moment. I'm very, very sad about this. It means that I might buy the dip. Desiccated Corpse. Sit and drink pennyroyal tea. Distill the life that's inside of me. Sit and drink pennyroyal tea. I'm anemic royalty. Can't post more super chat because poor. Yes, good Nirvana song, actually. And that is what it refers to, is abortion, herbal abortion, if I remember correctly. Somebody tried to claim it was about Kurt Cobain having stomach issues or something like that. And I'm like, well, I don't think that pennyroyal is good for that. Novicious Official, did my super chat go through or did Google steal money from me? If I didn't read it out, it means that it wasn't there, at least on my page. Let me check really quick. Yeah, I'm not seeing any from you. So yeah, I don't think they stole the money. I just think that they'll refund it. But your super chat probably had a naughty word, like two genders or something. Jim Morrison, no tax money to pay for or prevent abortions. The right needs to stand on the principles of parental rights. What do you think of CPS taking children? I get it, but that power can be corrupted. Yes, CPS is very corrupt. They are massively overburdensome. They should not be operating the way that they currently do. In many cases, you see, like some parent. Imagine some parent smokes weed, and someone happens to smell it and calls CPS, and all of a sudden they lose their kid because they smoked weed. Or maybe their neighbor smoked weed. The neighbor decided, the parent smoked weed a week ago, but they still got blood tested or something. It's nuts. The Infinite Mike, you must agree Roe v. Wade was broken, though, correct? Yes, Roe v. Wade was constitutionally broken, but that doesn't mean that I'm anti-choice. I still believe in a woman's right to choose. I do believe it should be available to every woman. The problem is in crafting a law that is constitutionally tenable to actually promote that. Right now, there's no will to do so. When Roe v. Wade falls, there will be some red states that make abortion fundamentally close to illegal. I oppose that. I think that women should be able to do that if it's in their conscience, if it's a need to do so. It's not going to stop them. They'll just go to another state. All this will do is that instead of people funneling money to Planned Parenthood Texas or Planned Parenthood Oklahoma, that money will end up going to effectively underground abortion groups that provide transit. It's not going to stop any abortions. Transylvanian 90, Canadian Supreme Court used Roman law to deny that the unborn were legally alive before birth, which is ridiculous when they try to use the living constitution concept to justify judicial activism. I didn't know they used Roman law. Well, I mean, I know Trudeau's living in the past, but I didn't exactly know how far, I guess. MacGyver on Twitch, America is a broken country. You just described every country. Congratulations. Enoch Valdorian, there's a federal bill on the docket by reps making abortion legal till 6 weeks. Even now, reps are still being reasonable. Yes, if the Republicans are wise, they will go for a compromise-style bill. They'll go for something that is hyper-limited, like well beyond the blue states, and codify it so that abortion becomes federally legal up till at least some arbitrary point, 6 weeks, 8 weeks, whatever, in the case of rape or mother's life is going to die or something. They'll do that. And then if they want to restrict it further later, that'll have to be a state decision. There's no way to do that at the federal level, even an upholding of abortion, by the way, even if let's say, and you're right, this is a good idea. They pass a law with Republican support, Democrat support, maybe it's even unanimous. They pass a law saying abortion shall remain legal up until at least however many weeks, 6 weeks or whatever. Even that may not pass constitutional muster. SCOTUS may be called to injunct it and then potentially strike it down. No, the federal government can't make this medical practice legal because of reasons. I don't think that's likely, but it is possible. Desiccated corpse. The funny thing about the leftists that are or were protesting are the same people who were all for vaccine mandates. One last chat. Need to save money. Yes, I do know. I do notice an overlap between these two things. Others have noticed it too. Just saying. Matt Guyver again. Not every country. My country is not broken. Americans just try to normalize their broken situation by saying every country is broken. Oh, your country is broken. Absolutely. There's not a government in the world that properly represents the will of their people, that fully represents their best interests as well. Doesn't exist. Unicorns don't exist, much as though I wish that they did, because then I can cut off their horn and sell it to somebody who has erectile dysfunction and make a lot of money. Emperor Soft Turtle, happy Mother's Day to your wife, an ultra mom. Someone thought calling someone ultra blank was an own. Yes, we are on ultra MAGA now. It's no longer just Make America Great Again. It's ultra Make America Great Again. Yorma 2000, Switzerland? No, the Swiss government's broken. Just look at their stance on certain groups of other exterior people. We won't mention anymore because this is a YouTube upload as well. They're just less broken. It's like saying, hey, I smashed this pot with a sledgehammer. That one over there, all you did was hit it a couple times lightly with a hammer, and it's got like cracks and a few shards missing. Well, it's still broken. The purpose of the pot is completely defeated, to hold water or some liquid or plants or whatever. The pot's still broken. It's just relatively less broken. Eridon 18, you ever drink lemon water instead of lime water or just lime? I used to, as a kid, suck on lemons and limes indiscriminately because I thought it was funny to you get all puckery and stuff because it's sour. I do that to gross people out mainly, but it was pretty tasty. I like sour things. Yes, I've had lemon water. The best is lemon and lime at the same time in the same really, really chilled water. Jim Morrison. Again, Styx, the principle of no tax dollars to pay for abortions is a simple and effective way to unite anti-abortion and libertarians. Yeah, I have no problem with that. Federal tax money, I think, was banned a long time ago for that anyway, though, so sort of par for the course. Lakeva, parallels between Russia prior to 1917 and America today. Thoughts? Not so many. No, the United States is, they say that empires last 200 years. And so they're saying, well, the U.S. is overdue. It was founded in 1776. I try to point out to people, the U.S., technically speaking, didn't become an empire until after World War II. It wasn't even a great power until after the Spanish-American War. That was, roughly 100 years ago. So, no, the United States is not going anywhere. Sorry to bother all of the people that don't like the United States. I noticed that a lot of these people have a lot of opinions, and they're very short on historical understanding. Matt Guyver is Danish. Well, you do have good blue cheese, I will say. The U.S. is not even a democracy. It is, in fact, the villain of this world, starting illegal wars and conflicts since World War II. You just talked about every great power player in the world, but Denmark's not one of them now, is it? There's the thing. It's salty grapes. By the way, no, the U.S. isn't a democracy. Thank fucking God. Democracy is broken. Olive from Sully, is the Netherlands broken? It's definitely less broken than most countries. There are some good things here, although the gun laws are abysmal. Yeah, try getting a pellet gun. Pay $1,500 for something from Germany. It's basically, I don't even know if you can get a potato gun in this country. Matt Guyver's really into it. There you go again with the deflection. No, I'm just saying, the United States is going to be doing fine for at least the next century or so. So get used to it. Well, not proving anything. I'm not all America, gung-ho with my freedom fries and flying the Star-Spangled Banner all of the time. I'm sitting here in the Netherlands, dude. I'm not even in the United States physically. Anyway, I think that I'll go off of here. because we're running up on about an hour. And I've got some asparagus soup to make later. Yes, I am making, how the hell is it pronounced? Just a sec, let me, it's called Spargel Soup or something like that. It's some German recipe. It's with white asparagus, and you saute some onions, and then you add the asparagus chunks, and then you blend it all together with the broth. And then you add other stuff like cream to it. It looks good. Liz likes a lot of lemon in soups. I tend not to, but I'm going to try it the authentic way. Matthew Edward Minutes, I appreciate your rationality. Gematria, numerology, and astrology with quantum tech. Metaphysics is looking to be more real than the real world. Yes, it's a fascinating existence to be in. Jim Morrison, Mega Maga. Yeah, see, I like Mega Maga more than Ultra Maga because Mega and Maga sound similar. I thought it'd be a no-brainer, but I guess Ultra Maga is the meme. I don't know. I think that might be a dead-end meme unless they change it to Mega Maga. South Dakota is the best state and the best nation on the planet. Not weather-wise. I don't know. I think I'd be looking at West Virginia or something like that for the best overall weather. You know, you get snow, but at the same time, it's pretty warm, reasonable growing season. Up in the foothills away from the tornadoes, anyway. Opinionated Junkie, thoughts on Steven Seagal? I have absolutely none. I don't care about Steven Seagal. Anyway, yeah, I'm going to go off now because we're over an hour here. I've got other things that I have to do. Food prep, you know, have some citrus before I get scurvy, preferably, etc. So I hope you all enjoyed the broadcast. We hit, what did we hit here? Just a second. We hit 7 Biden loser units between all three platforms. Excellent. So 7 times more popular than a Joe Biden broadcast. That's about all. Peace out.